It's time to give the people what they want. It's Jalen and Jacoby.
Hey! It's Jalen Rose.
What up, though?
I am David Jacoby.
And on the cold check-in.
We are Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. What do?
We give the people what they want.
Jalen Rose. Bryce Harper has a new hairdo. He went and got braids. He's got cornrows, which, of course, leads to the obvious question for anyone that watches or listens to this show. Are cornrows cultural?
They are not.
I totally co-sign these cornrows.
There will be people that accuse him of being a culture vulture.
Appropriation and blah, blah, blah. Yep.
But I would have to say no.
No, looks good.
And they're not something that's only for one gender.
No, not gender, not race specific. If you've got hair long enough to braid it up. I think it looks good on Bryce. And one thing I like about Bryce is, unlike me and you, he changes his hairstyle all the time. It was just a matter of time before he had cornrows. It's just going to be a matter of time before he has a ponytail. It's going to be a matter of time before he's got some stuff shaved in the sides. Like, he tries everything. He really tries everything. He's like me with cereals. Doesn't like to stick with one thing for too long.
Not race specific, not gender specific.
Good. Isaiah Thomas had a very thoughtful and emotional write-up from his feelings of what he's going through right now as he leaves Boston and joins Cleveland on the Cavaliers. And there's a section that really was extra sensitive and felt like a poem. So here's a dramatic reading from a section of Isaiah Thomas's Players Tribune post. It hurt a lot. And I won't lie, it still hurts. It's not don't understand it. Of course I get it. This is a business. Danny is a businessman and he made a business move. I don't agree with it. Just personally. And I think the Boston Celtics got better by this trade. That's not my job. That's Danny's. That was a dramatic reading of Isaiah Thomas's post from the Players Tribune. Jalen Rose, he was in his feelings. But he did kind of throw a shot at Danny Ainge. He said the Celtics did not get better by making this trade. Do you think the Celtics got better by making this trade?
I think both teams got better.
It was a great trade.
And since we're talking about the Celtics part of it, it wasn't just about acquiring Kyrie Irving. It was about acquiring Gordon Hayward also. They now have their backcourt of the future, two guys that play at an all-star level. They only returned 4 players to a roster that was a #1 seed, and only one starter in Al Horford. People are not talking a lot about them adding Marcus Morris, who's going to help them up front.
Of course.
This trade also opens up room for the young players to get more minutes. Jaylen Brown and Tatum, Rozier, Marcus Smart. So, of course, when you're the guy that got traded from a squad that was the #1 seed and you average 29 points, you feel like they're going to take a step back. But I think the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Boston Celtics got better with this deal.
I was surprised reading this, and I don't usually read things, I just read like the headline. When I read this, I was surprised that he did seem a little salty. Like, it did seem like there was a part of him that still wanted to be in Boston, that felt like he had been wronged somewhat. Like, there's no reason to point out that he thinks that the Celtics did not get better through this trade. It kind of feels like he fully expected them to back up the Brinks truck and him to spend his entire career in the Celtics green and white, and was a bit blindsided. Do you think that he's just in feeling that way?
I think he's just in feeling that way because this comes from a competitive spirit for a guy that's 5'9", that's always had to overcome challenges, not only with his height, but people not believing that he can accomplish what he's shown that he has the ability to. The thing that stood out to me from the trade, other than the fact that Kyrie Irving decided he didn't want to play in Cleveland with LeBron James anymore, was the fact that the Boston Celtics basically told Isaiah Thomas they didn't want to give him a max contract.
They do not. Well, the Boston Celtics are very excited about their new acquisition, Kyrie Irving. Danny Ainge had something interesting to say about what he expects from Kyrie in Boston.
I think the people that watch Kyrie play a lot can see his passing and his potential there as a passer, but, LeBron was pretty much the point guard in Cleveland. And Kyrie was a point guard often when LeBron wasn't on the court and so forth. But I think that he's a fantastic passer, and then I think, defensively he's got to improve, and I think that he will in Brad's system.
Jalen Rose, do you think Kyrie will be a better passer now that he is with the Celtics?
He'll have the basketball in his hands more, and Danny alluded to something that's true. Kyrie Irving is the first player in the history of the NBA to average 25 points and 5 assists, yet not lead his team in either one of those categories. That's what happens when you play with an icon like a LeBron James. So based on that, yes, I think he's going to have the opportunity for his assist numbers to go up and for he to show that he can hope to make players around him better. But for the Boston Celtics, they really want to be predicated on ball movement. And so they keep the paint open. They use Al Horford a lot at the high post as an initiator of offense, cutter to pass to cutters, as well as to set screen and roll action. So with that, he will have the opportunity to score more without necessarily dominating the ball as much, but he also, in reverse, will have the opportunity to play make and show that that part of his game does exist more than it did in Cleveland.
And in Cleveland, he was never expected to play without the ball. Like you see a lot of teams that use their best players coming off screens and running around and sort of like actions to get them open, not just open jump shots to get them open with some momentum to get past their man. And it really felt like the Cleveland offense was predicated on LeBron or Kyrie having the ball, dribbling out, and someone coming up, slowly setting a pick for them with like 15 seconds left on the shot clock. It will be fun to watch him in this new system, this Brad Stevens system that he alluded to. But Danny Ainge, one quick hint. I wouldn't really mention the part that you're expecting the Kyrie when LeBron was off the floor, because if you look at the stats, when LeBron was off the floor, the Cavs completely fell apart. Now, a lot of that was because they were built to have LeBron on the floor, but next time when you're hitting this talking point and you're talking to another media outlet, you might not want to point that out, Mr. Ainge. Who am I? I'm just saying, just trying to help you. Just trying to help you, Mr. Ainge. Just trying to help.
LeBron is somewhere picking his fantasy team if you get jammed up, don't mention my name.
What I got to do with this? It's not my fault that I'm the best player on the planet and people give me the ball and that's how we have our offensive system. It's not my fault that Kyrie couldn't average more assists than me even though he's the point guard. It's not my fault. If you get me jammed up, don't mention my name. Coming up next on Jalen and Jacoby, we're about to get fired. We have an entire Don't Get Fired segment next on Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. What's the worst haircut you've ever had?
There was a time where I had a bowl haircut and a tail in the back that wouldn't grow long, and I got it blonde.
Wait. You had a bowl haircut, so it was just like a straight line, no fade, and in the back, sort of JaVale McGee style, you attempted to grow a tail and then just dye the tail blonde?
At least his was able to grow downward.
Yeah.
Mine didn't grow downward.
So like a little puff?
Yes.
And you dyed it blonde?
Yes.
So you go to a salon and they put tinfoil around the back. How does the process work? Did you sit underneath the heat lamp?
I don't remember it being that sophisticated.
Did they spray some lemon juice on it? Clorox bleach?
Yeah, just getting it blonde. To your point, though, it only lasted like a day. Got a baldy real quick.
Is that the real story of the Fab Five all having bald heads?
Yes.
Welcome back to Jalen and Jacoby on ESPN Radio and ESPN2. Jalen Rose, it's that time again, and I am very concerned. It's time for the Don't Get Fired topic of the day.
And now, the Don't Get Fired topic of the day.
Michael Bennett of the Seahawks released an open letter detailing an incident that occurred after the Conor McGregor-Floyd Mayweather fight, in which he heard gunshots, ran with a group of people that were all dispersing. He was then apprehended by police, and according to him, a weapon was drawn on him, his life was threatened, he was handcuffed, and excessive force was used against him. Here's a section of the open letter that I will read to you. The officer's excessive use of force was unbearable. I felt helpless as I lay there on the ground, handcuffed, facing the real threat of being killed. All I think of was, I'm going to die for no other reason than I'm black, and my skin color is somehow a threat. Jalen Rose, what is your first reaction after hearing about this incident?
Wow. Not surprised, unfortunately. And the unique thing about this taking place was that it started with Colin Kaepernick taking a knee. Megan Rapinoe in soccer also followed suit, multiple NFL players, and it spilled over into this season where people still chose the opportunity during the national anthem to do what I call a passive protest. Michael Bennett was one of those athletes that chose to sit based on some of the things that he felt uncomfortable with that are taking place as it relates to injustices in our country while the anthem was playing. So he's in Las Vegas. He's attending the Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather fight. As you mentioned, he hears gunshots, and like multiple people, he's running. Now, also with being black, he's a defensive end. So he's big, he's strong, and to many, he may seem intimidating. Oh, and by the way, he's rich and famous too, for whatever it's worth. When you hear stories like this, it harkens back to when people talk about Black Lives Matter, some people get offended by that term. It doesn't mean that all lives don't matter, because of course they do. You shouldn't have to say that. The reason why that term became so profound is because of the specificity that comes with it. It almost meant Black Lives Matter too. And so when I hear about the instance in Cobb County where the cop pulls over the lady and they're in the front seat negotiating, and he says to her, well, you don't have to worry about it. You're not black. We only kill black people. And so when these things get said, and then now you see the video, now you hear the audio, for some, it's alarming. For people that understand that this behavior has been going on for so very long, it's not surprising. And so I appreciate the fact that this was caught on video. And now I think for those who were offended by not only his protest or by anybody else's right to, again, do a passive protest for something that our United States legislates because we're considered the land of the free and home of the brave, is something that you should now be able to respect somebody's position. And as I also see the video, it makes me think, wow, here's a guy that took a seat during the anthem and probably got some negative PR. But when he takes a knee to the back and get a gun put to the back of his head and somebody threatens his life, maybe people will start to listen.
It is sort of poetic, and it's crazy and ironic and coincidental that it was one of the athletes that was standing up against this exact behavior that became a victim of this exact behavior. It's troubling as a society that this type of thing has to happen, because this type of thing happens all the time to people who are not famous football players. Like the amount of instances in which there is excessive force used by police happens. There was a study by Bowling Green that says it's about 1,000 incidents a year. That's over 3 a day. But now, because it is Michael Bennett, not only will his stance during the national anthem try to bring some awareness to it, unfortunately, him being victimized by this exact thing that he was protesting will bring even more awareness to it. And hopefully it will bring to justice the officers that, from what it looks like on the video, used excessive force. From one don't get fired topic, we now transition to another.
And now, the don't get fired topic of the day.
Jalen Rose, you are soon to be enshrined in the Michigan Sports Hall of Fame. You've got your own high school. You've got a legacy that is felt and appreciated beyond your performance on the basketball court, your performance in the community. And you were again enshrined for your performance amongst the community. This time, it is a picture on the wall that was sent to us by Hooters in Toronto. Okay? Is this you being flanked by a couple of employees of a Hooters in Toronto?
Oh, that's not me. That don't look like me.
That's
no,
not you with the big oversized quadruple X camo jacket on? That's not you at all?
Wasn't me.
Well, let's zoom out a little bit. Who's that? Who's your companion there? Is that a teammate of yours? Is that a friend of yours?
I don't know who that is.
You don't know
It wasn't
any.
me.
I don't know who that is. It looks really familiar, both of those human beings. But one thing I know is those two upstanding young members of this community would never do something like have a picture enshrined on the wall of a Hooters, right?
We wouldn't do something like that. That's a lot of cleavage in that picture.
We would never do something like that. Let's end this segment before we get fired. Welcome back to Jalen and Jacoby. Jalen Rose, we both have a passion for basketball, hip-hop, smoothies, and sneakers. There is an image on the internet of what looks to be the LeBron James 15 sneaker. I have very, very high bar when it comes to signature sneakers on athletes, especially basketball players. I have to say, I think I love these. Your thoughts?
I like them.
I really like them.
I would definitely rock those. When LeBron first had his kicks in the league as a young player, I actually wore his shoes.
You did.
And there became a point when they started to do the weird commercials and the shoes started to get really big and bulky.
His shoes, they started as like a sedan and then at one point turned into like a Ford truck. And it was just like, these things, they look like moon boots. They weigh 3 pounds apiece. Like, I understand that LeBron James need this for his stability, but he's a 280-pound dude and I am not. But this looks light. It looks sleeker and it kind of looks like it's got that vapor technology on the bottom. I'm a big fan of these sneakers. However, I will not be able to afford them because I'm not paying $200 for a pair of kicks. Sorry, Bron. Send me a free pair. 11.5. Next, another new image was released, this time by the Seahawks. They've got a new logo. This time the Seahawks stares at you, face to beak. What do you think about the new Seahawks logo?
I'm just going to put it on wax right now. Seattle Seahawks are winning the NFC this year.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay, I'm glad that you made that statement. Put it on wax. What do you think about the logo?
Their defensive front is going to be crazy this year. They added Richardson. But that's another subject for another day. I am not mad at the logo, except when I look at the one that's on the shoulder, when I look closer in reverse, it almost looks like the hawk is laying between cleavage, not necessarily shoulder.
There are some, it has been pointed out, not just by us, but by others, there are some sort of like hidden sexual Easter eggs in there. They're a little weird. But also this is, I was looking at it and I was like, this does look cool. This hawk looks really intimidating if I was looking straight at it. However, I have one fix. You got to put some shoulders on the hawk. Like, the hawk needs a body. Like, that was just a floating head. A floating head is not nearly as intimidating as like a diesel hawk coming at you with its wings spread. Just a note. Feel free to take that. Don't charge me. I won't send an invoice or anything. And now we continue the saga of Martin Shkreli and his embargo of the Wu-Tang Clan album that only he can hear. He originally paid $2 million for this, and he has now put it up on eBay. Jalen Rose, a couple things we know about you. Number one, we know you're rich because you played in the NBA for a long time. Number two, we know you like to give the people what they want. Will you just buy this Wu-Tang album and just give it out for free? Please? Please, Jalen?
As much as I love Wu-Tang.
Please, Jalen?
And represent
Do it
their
for the
legacy
people. You say you give the people what they want.
so much,
You give
I
the people
would
what they
not
want.
give this guy a dime.
That's a good point. What if the proceeds went to charity? Would you then do it for the people?
I would have no choice but to do it for the people because at this point, it's become a mockery.
I know.
Arguably, the greatest group next to NWA
The greatest
of
group.
all
Full stop.
time, to have this guy slowly leaking records and
On the background on a
making
YouTube
mockery
video.
of it.
It ain't right. This is not
It's
what
not
the
right.
Wu-Tang Clan had in mind. They had a great idea. They're like, we're just going to make one copy, and we're going to sell that one copy. It's going to be like this secret scroll. And all of a sudden, like, the most evil human being on the face of the planet has it and slowly leaks it out in the background on social media posts. Such a tragedy. Not a tragedy. 50 Cent and Stars have a very interesting relationship. Hot and cold relationship. First of all, some episodes of Power were leaked, and then 50 Cent was like, oh, I did that because I don't like Stars. And then he said that everyone should cancel their Stars subscriptions after the season concluded. Well, on the heels of that very contentious statement by 50 Cent is this statement by 50 Cent. There are now reportedly, according to 50 Cent, 3 new Power-esque 50 Cent shows coming out from Stars. Is this too much power? Is 3 new shows really? Is that really giving the people what they want, Jalen?
Yes, it is. I need something to watch. Power season just ended. It'd be ideal if another program was to start right now. Did you know that Ghost, Tommy, and Kanan have all loped up on the program?
Jalen,
Avengers
spoiler
sitting
alert.
in one vehicle?
Spoiler alert. Again, you do not understand how spoilers work, do you? Because I get the tweets. When you spoil the shows, I get the tweets. That's what happened. Because you already blocked everybody.
I'm mad at Tasha, though. The lawyer?
Don't do it.
Come on
Don't
now.
do it. Don't do it. Jalen Rose, you're in 2 fantasy leagues. One is the fantasy league for this show, which I'm definitely going to win this year. Shout
It's
to our
just a
entire staff.
fantasy.
Shout to everybody involved. But you're also in another fantasy league, the one you actually care about, because it costs you an extreme amount of hard-earned American currency just for the right to be a part of this league. It is way too expensive. No regular civilian would ever be in a league this expensive. That being said, how'd the draft go?
It's called the Kick A Fantasy Football League. There are some notable individuals that participate in the league that you may know. There are also some people that work closely with them that are truly successful in multimedia entertainment. And so we had our draft, and I'm excited about the way it went. Fantasy Pros said that I have the #1 squad.
The #1 squad before you've played a single game. We'll see how it is at the end of the season. This is the end of the show. Thank you so much for listening to and
Thank
watching
you.
Jalen and Jacoby
Thank you.
on ESPN Radio
Thank you.
and ESPN2.